So, scatter plots and association. So these will be your notes for tonight. So, scatter plots. Scatter plots are graphs that use points to display numerical data with two variables or bivariate data. So, if you remember Greek, your Greek roots, bi means two, and variate is like variable. So it's like saying two different types of variables with your data. Numerical just means data that has to do with numbers. Scatter plots can help determine if one variable has an effect on the other, or if there are other trends, patterns, or associations between the variable. Zara surveyed shoppers at the mall to see how many times they purchased and the total amount of money they spend at the mall. She used the data to create the scatter plot shown. Total spent, number of items, and here's your graph. How many shoppers did Zara survey? Well, if you look at the dots, that's like each shopper she surveyed. So you can just count the dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Easy enough because that's her data points. It's shoppers. Does the number of items purchased seem to have an effect on the amount of money the shopper spent? Explain. Well, you've already learned a little bit about data that has a positive or negative association. So you could say, yes, this kind of looks like it has a positive slope, puff, puff, positive, remember? So yes, it has a positive association. So yes, it has a positive effect. So your sample answer could be yes. In general, as the number of items increase, the total amount of money spent also increases, which makes sense. You're shopping, right? So it has a positive association. Use the table below to define three top possible types of association seen in scatter plots. So here we have the positive association, where as one increases, the other one also increases, because that's what it means to be positive. Both things increase. Oh, thanks. Next, we have a negative association, where we have as one variable increases, the other variable decreases. They seem to change in opposite directions. So as one thing goes up, the other goes down. And remember, you're still comparing two sets of data here. The last one is no association. So no, they don't affect each other at all. This is kind of like your scatter plot that's kind of random, just everywhere, which is something you should have seen earlier in class. So describe the types of association you expect to see between the following variables. Please explain. Ooh, excuse me. So I don't want to give away the answer, so I'm going to switch back to this one. So, oh, cool. Thank you. So the first one says the number of shoes a person owns and the number of states they visited. That's an interesting thing, but do you think there's a positive association like this, a negative association, or no association? Do those things relate to each other in any kind of way? Probably not. So you might say there's no association between those two things. Let's look at the next one. the size in ounces of a steak and the cost of a steak. Well, generally, when I go to a restaurant, I don't know about you, but I order a big steak and it costs a lot more. So I would say yes, there's a positive association. As the steak size increases, the amount of cost increase. Unless you're, of course, you're ordering like Wagyu or something. You fancy pants, you. Next one says the number of days since watering a plant, um, and the moisture level of the soil. So you water a plant, the soil gets wet, right? You stop watering a plant, the sun dries out the soil, and the moisture level of the soil goes down. So this would be a negative association. So we can also determine strength of the association and whether it is linear or nonlinear. So linear just means it looks like a line, and nonlinear means it is not a line, a straight line. So let's look at that. So if you remember from class, some of you might have heard me talking about a correlation coefficient. This is talking about the strength of the association. It's just a measurement between -1 and 1, where 1 is like a straight line and -1 is like a negative straight line. And the closer you are to 1 or -1 is that strength of the associations. 0 would be like no association at all. But putting that aside, strength of an association. If the data points are close together, the association is strong. So strong. Not strong, but just strong. And if the data points are widely spread, the association is weak. So I like to think of this as kind of like darts on a dartboard. A strong association is like someone having really good accuracy. They're hitting the same place every single time. Here, not so good. They're hitting different places every time. They're kind of spread out. That's weaker. If a straight line can be drawn to show the overall trend in the scatter plot, the association can be described as linear. Linear, right? If it can't, it is nonlinear. Like this thing, non-linear. And this first one would be linear. All right. So that's most of the notes. This says use scatter plots A through D to answer questions 4 through 7 below. So which scatter plot shows linear association? Well, that one doesn't really. This one looks like it does. This one kind of does. This one, not so much. So we could say linear association looks like it's B and C. B comma C. Nonlinear associations, well, anything that doesn't look like a straight line. So A comma D. What scatter plots show the weakest association? Remember, weaker means that the dots are further apart, and it kind of looks like C is the weakest here. And the strongest association, it is very close, but it looks like A is the strongest association because all of those dots are tightly packed. All right. In 8 through 10, draw a line from each of the scatter plots to the description. And then the description, to the best description of its association and then to the variables it would most likely represent. Not all choices will be used. So first off, we have this thing. And we would say, okay, this looks good, but it looks like there's not an association there. So I'm going to go here. No association. So I'm going to look for a situation with no association. So the temperature outside and the total gallons of gas sold at a gas station, the size of a home and the monthly cost of utilities, and the altitude of a hiker and the total level of oxygen. So I'm going to say probably this. Even though, you know what, I'm not going to get into it, but there is actually an association, maybe not with temperature, but with like the time of year. So it kind of indirectly has a relation to the temperature. Anyway, this looks like a positive linear association. So I'm going to go this way. I'll change highlighter so you can see. There we go. And it looks like a positive linear would be the size of a home and the monthly cost of a home. So I'm going to do this. And then the last one, I'll use blue, and I can draw a line like this. It looks negative, nice negative. Here's my skier dude. And it looks like a line. So I'm going to say negative linear. So boop, boop, doo. And it's going to be the altitude of a hiker and the total level of oxygen. So that's pretty easy. And I get to color. So it's a win-win situation. All right. Last page, and then you can move on to your practice. Yeah. Scatter plots and association. Yeah, I'll do this last page. Text box, there we go. Scatter plots and association, page 3, I guess. So in 1 through 3, list whether you'd predict to see a positive, negative, or no association between the two variables. Explain your choice. I'll do the first one, and then you can do the other two, okay? The number of hours spent playing video games and the highest level of video game getting breached. Well, you can think about that one. But I think if you spend more time, you're going to reach a higher level. So I would say that is a positive association. All right. The number of letters in a person's name and the last digit in their phone number. And the number of ice cubes in a drink and the temperature of the drink. Well, I'll let you guys think about that. Hey, if you get a drink with an outrageous number of ice cubes, can you drop the temperature to 0 Kelvin? That's a joke. Anyway. I'll let you guys think about these, and I'll let you do the rest of this page by yourself. Thank you for joining me. I hope you learned a little bit about what association is, and I will see you next video. Signing out.